Good morning, and welcome to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC, and WHTC.com.
And we welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Monday, August 24th. I'm Gary Stevens. We'll have open line following the 10 and 11 o'clock news blocks. Patty Vandenberg will be joining us in about an hour with what's new around Holland. And we should be joined in our 10:30 segment on this fourth Monday of the month by State Representative Brad Slaw, the first-term Republican from Zeeland Township. But our first half hour is devoted to the Ottawa County Patriots. For the second time in about a month span, we are joined by its president, the other side of our Zoom connection, Steve Redmond. Steve, good morning and welcome back to WHTC.
Good morning, Gary.
First of all, I'm sorry that the election did not go your way. You were running for a seat on the Park Township board, but unfortunately, it was an unsuccessful run. But still, you had a chance to dabble a little bit in the political field.
Well, I finished 6 out of 10, so I finished the middle of the pack, and maybe I'll try again someday.
Let's talk about what's going on tomorrow night. It's the second of two meetings for the Ottawa County Patriots this month. The subject is the same, but the thrust will be a little bit different. The title of the meeting is What the Heck Happened to America, and what can we do about it? It'll be tomorrow night. Steve, tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts, and then a little bit of maybe the differences of tonight's meeting from what we had earlier this month.
Okay, well, I'll actually start with that. This is part two. Last month, we dealt with COVID-19 and kind of exposing Black Lives Matter, the organization. And this month, we're tackling three topics. We're talking about defunding or defending our police. What impact will that have on our community safety? Racism in America seems to be a huge topic. We'll look at the history and the rhetoric about this important issue. And violence in America. What are the causes? What are the remedies? And we've got 5 excellent speakers to address those issues, including Austin Kreutz, a pastor of the Restoration Christian Community in Allegan and a noted international speaker, Pastor Phil Smith, co-pastor of Eternal Word Church in Granville, Michigan, and Mike Hewitt, host of the popular Mike Hewitt radio show.
By the way, I will add the Mike Hewitt show can be heard Saturday mornings at 7 right here on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. Go ahead there. I needed to put that plug in.
We only recruit the best, Gary.
Thank you.
And Denny Gillum, who also has a radio show, Frontlines of Freedom, that is a nationally syndicated radio show. And Colonel Gillum's a highly decorated airborne ranger that served in Vietnam, graduated from West Point, and he and his family have extensive experience in law enforcement. And Mike Waronko, a former police officer for 27 years, he's also a lawyer and has represented officers caught up in officer-related shooting incidents. And he's also worked with police unions in West Michigan. So we've got a good group of speakers to speak to all those issues. And those seem to be what are right out of the water cooler these days for most Americans, violence, issues with the police, and the charges that pretty much all of America is racist.
The situation in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the weekend certainly has made tomorrow night's meeting at the Lighthouse Baptist Church somewhat poignant. You mentioned water cooler topics, but certainly we've become more aware, Steve Redmond, of our relations to each other, our relations with the police, and there are some are saying that what we're seeing right now has been maybe as angry this nation has been since the 1960s. Do you sort of agree with me on that, or am I blowing it up a little bit too much out of proportion?
Actually, I think it's worse than the 60s. I'm old enough to live through the 60s and the riots in Grand Rapids where I lived. And I would have to say that what's going on today is different and worse than what went on in the 60s. In the 60s was after the death of Martin Luther King, the assassination of Martin Luther King. And there was, riots all over the country. What we're seeing here is somewhat different, and it's much more organized, and it often has very little to do with civil rights. The Black Lives Matter group, which we had talked about in depth at our last meeting, is really not a civil rights group. It's pretty much a Marxist group that's using the civil rights issue as a cover. They're basically wolves in sheep's clothing, and they're not really working to uplift minorities or improve their lot in life. They're simply using it to bring about terror and anarchy and to pretty much confuse people. I see around town Black Lives Matter signs, and I think some of the people caught up in it are just innocent bystanders. They are well-intentioned, they're well-meaning. Many of them are Christians, and they are trying to say that we are not racist, and that's fine and good, but you have to look deeper to the Black Lives Matter organization, and that is not anything about civil rights. It's about it's not even about civil disobedience. It's about basically overthrowing many aspects of our country, our government, our culture, and they don't even hide it very much. If you go on their website, you can see that the founders were trained Marxist. You know, they are proud of that, and some of their goals are to overthrow the traditional family, the traditional man-woman nuclear family, and it's really insidious thing, and that's why we're having the meeting, is that, as you know, the Patriots always try to educate the community and then challenge you to do something about it. And we try to go for the facts and the truth, not just emotion or political spin or the flavor of the day. And so we're going to dig into these issues. And the police, the attacks on the police is the tip of the iceberg. It's not just an attack on the police. And again, nobody condones a law officer that goes to extremes or doesn't follow his training or loses their head and does something really wrong. Nobody condones that. But the vast majority of the police are honest, law-abiding citizens. They're there to protect us and serve us. And it's like anything else. There's been a bad doctor at MSU, but I don't think anybody in your audience has quit going to the doctor because of it. They probably won't go to that doctor. And it applies to every other job in America. There are bad people in every occupation, and those shouldn't be condoned, but you don't quit using services or going to get professional help because somebody in that profession is a bad actor. That's part of what we have to help people learn. The other is, it's not just an attack on the police, it's an attack on our whole legal system, our criminal justice system. It's not designed just to right wrongs. It's designed to basically overthrow the United States government and our culture and our way of life. So we're going to dig deeper into it. And also the issues of racism. Right now, there's been some wild accusations that if you're white, you're a racist, which is patently ridiculous. Anybody can be a racist, any color, any creed. We know that's true. And I personally resent it because, as I tell my kids who get caught up in some of this stuff, I've got a large family, I said, you weren't raised to be racist, and neither was I. And so when people accuse you of it, be very careful to look and see what are the facts. And the vast majority of people in the country are not racist. I grew up at a time when there was more racism, back in the 50s and 60s, and there was clear racism. We've come a long way since then.
395-1450. If you have a question for Steve Redmond of the Ottawa County Patriots, he'll be happy to take it at 395-1450. As we mentioned, the meeting tonight, or tomorrow night, I should say, what the heck happened to America and what can we do about it? It's tomorrow night from 7 to 9. The doors open at 6:30 at the Lighthouse Baptist Church on East 24th Street in Holland. Steve, talk a little bit about some of the measures that the Patriots are doing to make tomorrow night's meeting a safe gathering, because there are some people who are worried about going to a public gathering of a number of people because of health concerns.
Sure. Well, we take your temperature at the door. And first of all, we tell you, if you're sick or have a fever, don't come to the meeting. It's just common sense. It's what your pastor will tell you at church usually. So we take your temperature at the door. We have masks available if people don't have one and need one. We have lots of hand sanitizing equipment. We've changed our whole refreshment routine. We used to put on a pretty good spread, and now everything is prepackaged. We have small bottled waters that, nobody touches them. It's prepackaged. We have some prepackaged snacks that, you're not dipping your hands into the potato chip bag. So we've taken all those kind of precautions, and there's plenty of room at the church to spread out. So we're taking all the usual reasonable CDC precautions to keep people safe.
Now, the other thing too is the fact that is there going to be capability for this meeting, if it's not live streamed in real time, to be able to be viewed maybe at a later time, or is that not yet in the realm for the Patriots?
No, we do that every meeting. We video it, and then we make it available. And at the meeting, if people sign up, give us their email, we send them the meeting broke up by individual speakers so they can play it back on their own home computer and share it with others. Nobody's going to watch a 2-hour meeting unless they're really into it. So we break it up by the various speakers so that if there's a particular speaker you want to hear again, you can do that. And so we make it available to people, and we've been sending them out to the people that attended the last meeting on the COVID-19 and the Black Lives Matter. There was a lot of interest in that.
The reason why I was asking is that those who might be a little bit hesitant about attending live, but they do want to see what has happened. How can they, just contact the Patriots via the email or stuff like that?
Yeah, we're having some problems with our website right now, so just contact me, Steve Redmond 12 at yahoo.com. Tell me what you need, and we'll send it to you.
All right, Steve Redmond 12 at yahoo.com. If you want to be able, if you can't make the meeting tomorrow night, maybe you're busy watching the Republican National Convention. I don't know how many people are going to be watching it. Let me ask you a side question, Steve. I've mentioned it on the show that it used to be must-see TV about convention coverage. I mean, the three networks, when we didn't have Fox, the three networks would have wall-to-wall coverage. They'd have people on the floor. They'd be reporting about floor fights and backroom meetings and stuff like that, complaining about the platform. Now the conventions are strictly, high gloss efforts. Before we had the COVID situation, and cheering crowds, make sure the balloons drop on time. We saw with the Democratic convention, very much a highly productive thing. The Republicans get their turn at bat. Have we gotten to the point, Steve, that we're sort of like turned off by the conventions? Like it's a 4-day commercial for each party, and it's like, tell us what you stand for. We're not just going to watch all these paid political announcements, shall we say?
Well, sadly, Gary, because I used to watch all those conventions, and today most of the conventions are prepackaged, pre-poll tested infomercials. And so you don't really get the real drama that goes on in political parties and gatherings where there's fights and arguments and, food fights and so on. You don't see any of that. They clean it up. They present the image they want you to believe. And it's prepackaged, and it's a large infomercial. Sometimes there's something of interest or something poignant with a speaker, but they're designed to pull at your heartstrings and at your purse strings to get donations. And you have to dig more today to find out what's behind a political movement or a candidate. You have to do some homework. You have to dig. And a lot of people don't do that. They simply watch the commercials and they vote emotionally based on what they saw on television. And that's really sad because a lot of things that goes on is not put on television or it's spun. And so you have to really dig deeper to find out what's going on. And I kind of regret that it's getting harder to find out what people stand for and what they really believe. You have to look at the best indicator is the best indicator of future performance is past performance. So if a politician has a record, look at what they've done. Forget about what they said. Look at what they actually did. That's what you can expect in the future. And that's what I would recommend all your listeners do, regardless of political party. Look at what they've done, not what they've said.
Now, the other thing is, and I think I mentioned it with Bill Heisinger when I chatted with him on Thursday about this, is the fact that maybe, for one thing, you can do better homework now. What you can find online, you have to sort of, keep in mind that some of the stuff that's been posted online, don't accept it as gospel truth. Check 2 or 3 to 4 different sources. But one thing I mentioned to Bill and something I've started to do a little bit is look not at the candidates, but what the party platform is. What does the party stand for? That used to be a staple of conventions, setting up the platform, what things would be on a plank on the platform. We have the Democrats with its platform out. The Republicans are saying what we rolled out in 2016, we're going to roll out again in 2020. Why change a winning hand? Am I being too simplistic of looking at a platform more than, as you say, look at the records? But what if you got a new candidate that doesn't have a past track record, quote unquote, as elected office? Do you look at the platform as much as maybe the person's background?
Platforms can be helpful. It's sort of a statement of things we believe or we'd like you to think we believe. But frequently, individual politicians kind of pay lip service to the platform, but they don't really follow it. So sadly, a platform is sort of a statement of belief, but not everybody adheres to it. So I think it is a tool because there are some clear differences in the platforms, and you can use that to start to sift out the wheat from the chaff. But you've got to do due diligence. You've got to do the kind of homework you do when you're about to buy a car or buy a house. You want to check out and see if it's been in any wrecks. You want to see if there's been water damage. You kind of need to do the same thing with politicians and see if they're leaking someplace that you didn't know about.
Part of that homework about the issues is what the Ottawa County Patriots tried to provide. And of course, the meeting is tomorrow night. What the heck happened to America and what can we do about it? Steve, I want to give you an opportunity for people who might be interested in the Ottawa County Patriots beyond the meeting as well. How can people get involved with the Patriots?
Well, the easiest way is come to one of our meetings or just contact me by email. And we've been around for about 10 years now. And basically our mission is pretty basic. We try to promote awareness and understanding of American government, the free enterprise system, traditional American values, and related political or civic issues through education and citizen involvement. And our big focus is education. That's why we put on these educational forums probably 8 to 10 times a year. And we bring in top-notch speakers on the topics of most concern to people. And we try to make it a real in-depth learning experience. We try to give additional handouts and information, places you can go and research the topics in more depth. Sometimes there's people that have petitions that they want signed, so they come to our meetings and we give them a forum for that. We try to kind of keep an open forum for people that are concerned about what's happening in the community or the country, and give them a voice and give them a chance to share their thoughts with others. So we try to be a pretty open forum for the Holland and the West Michigan community, and our meetings are pretty well attended, and people keep coming back, so we must be doing something right. So we welcome anybody to join us. Even people that might have a different perspective on things, you're welcome also. But we're an open group.
That's the key, because of the fact that some might say, well, the Ottawa County Patriots are only a conservative group and only conservative people, like people. You want to have a different, you want to be as diverse as what some of the people who espouse diversity want to have.
Well, we are a diverse group. We have people that come to our meetings from all over West Michigan. We have members in Grand Rapids, Allegan, Muskegon. So we draw from a pretty big area because we've found a formula that works, and we try to really focus on facts and truth. Those are rare commodities in today's world. You can get lots of information, you can get lots of opinions, but like you were talking about earlier, you've got to do your due diligence and find out what the truth is. We try to go for the truth and the facts from the get-go, and we work really hard to bring that kind of information to the West Michigan community.
The meeting is What the Heck Happened to America and what can we do about it? It's from 7 to 9 p.m. tomorrow night at the Lighthouse Baptist Church. Doors open at 6:30. It's on East 24th Street. Defunding or defending our police. Racism in America, violence in America are the thrusts of the 2-hour conversation. Pastors Phil Smith and Austin Kreutz, and along with radio commentators Denny Gillum and Mike Hewitt, and former police officer Mike Ronco will be the featured speakers. More information, email Steve Redmond, steveredmond12@yahoo.com, and he'll be happy to give you more information as well. We look forward to hopefully a good meeting tomorrow night, Steve, for the Ottawa County Patriots, and we look forward to hopefully chatting with you next month as the meetings come back on a regular basis with the Ottawa County Patriots. Steve, thank you for joining us today on WHTC.
Thank you, Gary.
And that is Steve Redmond of the Ottawa County Patriots here on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.